Yo, what is up, YouTube? Cruiser here. A bunch of you guys wanted to see a hand review type of a video, so I decided to make one. These are gonna be some of the hands I played this year, some interesting spots, some interesting takeaways from me, what I think you should do, what I think you shouldn't do, how well I played, how badly I played. So let's jump straight in. So we have pocket nines in the small blind, button opens. We're a bit deeper here. It's a recreational player based on his open size and based that he's unknown to me, right? I know pretty much most of the people in 200 Zoom because I played so a lot, but every time when I see an unknown, I assume he's a recreational, right? That would be the most normal thing to do. I go for a 3-bet. He calls. We get a pretty good board for the small blind. We're going to have Jack X advantage because we're going to be 3-betting King Jack off and A Jack off, while he should be folding some of those or 4-betting pre-flop. Although recreational will probably have King Jack off pure, maybe even Queen Jack off. So our advantage isn't that high anymore against this player type, but still I start with a small 40% c-bet and take it from there. He goes for a small raise. Nothing we can do here, then just call. I don't want to range him because you can't really range recreationals. He can have, 10-8. He can have 6-5 of clubs here. He can have ace-queen, randomly raising. So we just call. Brick on the turn goes check, check. At this point, I don't think he has a jack anymore. Although some recreations like to slow play for no reason. But I think his range is mostly like low pocket pairs or some give-ups. And we get a really dreamy river for our hand. So my thoughts here are, if he has a jack, I went for a jam. And I'm going to explain why. If he has a jack, we're going to stack him anyways if he slow played that. But the main thing why I went for the jam, why I went for a super huge greedy jam is as he raised the flop and checked the turn. So I thought he's going to have so many low pocket pairs here. And I was hoping he puts me on some kind of a ace-king hand that called the flop, right, versus a small c-bet. You never know what recreationals think. This is a mistake I see a lot of people do. Most of the people will just size to b75 here or something, try to get called by those pocket pairs. The thing is, if you have a jack, go for that size. Top range, in my eyes, is always designed to play for stacks. I don't care if SPR is 1. I don't care if SPR is 10. I'm going to be jamming my top range every single time. I want to get the maximum from top range. That's how you should play top range. So, yeah, and as I already said, the guys are recreational, so you never know how wide he will call. Maybe he will call ace-king here versus this size. It happens. I saw it multiple times. Maybe he will call pocket 4s, pocket 5s, right? You never know what's going on in recreational's mind, right? He might be playing on his mobile phone and accidentally click call because he misread the action. You never know that stuff, right? So you always want to go for maximum. If you're going for small sizing here, you're leaving lots of money on the table. We got lucky this time, but I still think my play is fine. We will never know what he called 5s or 4s, but even if I went b75, he's raising this hand, so his hand, this is like top range cooler. But I still think jam would perform better against the unknown guy that you never know what will he do in game, right? If I had a jack, I would probably size down to b75. If I had 10-8, I would jam. If I had 9s, I would jam. If I had 7s, I would jam. 6s, I would jam. So yeah, that was that first hand. Okay, next hand, pocket 3s from the cutoff. We open. I might be mixing some low frequency fold with this hand if the blinds are aggressive, but I don't think it's the case here. I go for an open. Cut off 3 bets. I'm gonna be calling this hand pure, especially because we're a bit deeper and he used a smaller size. He should go like 7.5 at least. But easy call for me. Okay-ish board. Maybe if it was UTG versus button, I could lead this board high frequency, because UTG I'm gonna have way more sets here. Cutoff, maybe I could lead, but I'm not. It's not a huge favorite board like if it would be if I was a UTG, as I already said, right? Here I would probably lead something like 6-5-4, 5-4-3, because I'm gonna have way more sets, cutoff versus button, with those lower sets, while UTG I'm gonna have the higher sets, right? So that's one of the differences between these boards. I go for a check, he goes for a check back. He should be also playing a checking range here because he can't see bet everything on this board. I turn a set. Here I should be playing blocks a lot with my range, I assume, just to put his ace highs into indifferent region. However, I decided to. This guy was also unknown at the time. I only had 80 hands on him. So I decided to be a bit trappy with my super strong hand. He went check jack again. So by this time, I think his range is mostly ace highs or like 7x, 8x, that slow played, right? Maybe 9x. And against that range, I should probably block the river again, right, in GTO with my low pocket pairs, just to make his ace highs indifferent. But as I already discussed in the previous hand, I play top range. I play a top range for stacks, so I was willing to lose little extra value here by blocking against his ace highs and hope he reopens the action, which won't happen that often. But with top range, I want to go for stacks, basically. That's why I decided to trap again. And he decides to bet half pot. So we're over 100 deep here on the river. The SPR is like how much? 5, 6. A lot of people I see here will go for a small raise to make sure they get called. Again, don't play small raises. Top range is designed to maximize value, to get the max out of his. It's on him to bluff catch you, right? Maybe he will bluff catch ace king. You never know. Like maybe he's thinking like, what do I rep when I go for double checks, right? Maybe he'll bluff catch like 7-6, thinking like he blocks sets, he blocks straights, right? You never know. If you have something like pocket tens that checked or pocket jacks, sure, go for a small raise. But top range is always designed to go for jams. Always be greedy with top range. I see a lot of people do this. I see a lot of regs, like average. I don't want to insult everyone. I mean, I don't want to insult anyone, but average 200 zoom reg. When I get min clicked on the river or get raised half pot or something like that, I cringe so hard because you're supposed to go for stacks, man. Like stop playing so small raises so you can get called more often. Like you win way more money in the long run when you play for stacks. Always go for jams when you're raising. And see, he called queen 9 here versus a super huge, but he's never good in practice. He needs 45% equity. Like this is a punt call in my eyes. But he doesn't, like, this is what I mean. People are curious. They don't he doesn't know. Like I would maybe also call this in his shoes because villain checked twice, and what do I rep at this point, right? Maybe I rep 7s or 8s that block his checkbacks, right? But people are curious. You always want to go max with top range. That's how I play pretty much. That's what I advise everyone, even my students that I coach, to always go for jams. You don't want to go half pot raises. You don't want to go pot raises. Just go for jam with top range. Easy as that. All right, let's check the next hand. All right, next hand. This one was pretty interesting. Where I was pretty mad after the hand as I misplayed. But let me show you what I did. So we flat. UTG open on the button. You can have a flatting range. Especially if the guy opens smaller, like against 2x, 2.2x, it's okay to have flats. I decided to flat this time. We play a pretty good flop set, so he decides to check. On this board, I'm gonna be checking a lot and only using polarizing big sizes here. I went for pot in game, but I could go for even slight overbet. I think only on ace high boards I go for an overbet, and on these two double broadways I go for pot. That's my thing. He decides to raise versus pot, which is already quite unusual. You don't see this that often. So his range at this point is jacks, king jack, maybe kings. However, I don't think people would raise kings that often where they block my top pairs. So mostly jacks and king jack, and then some bluffs, gut shots, mostly open enders, queen 10. I decided to go for a call. Here, another consideration here is I could also 3-bet the flop. I'll show you in the wizard the strategies after and what deviation is best based on what I think happens in practice against regs. But anyways, I decided to call this time. Brick on the turn. He decides to bet for pot. Here again, I went for a call. However, I could play already jams here just to deny some equity, right? If he has a equity-driven range, let's say he continues a lot of queen 10, 10-9 hearts, 10-9 of hearts, ace-10 of hearts, like equity-driven range, that means I want to fast play way more. If he has a proper range, like 6x blockers, set blockers, jack x blockers, something like ace-10 off, you know, that's a gut shot. It's not, doesn't have that much equity compared to other hands. Then I want to call way more, right? But against the equity-driven range, I made a, which I think is most likely what happens in practice. I made a pretty big mistake here by just calling. Because queen on the turn, he jams. I decide to call. At this point, I lose two jacks. I don't think he will jam king jack anymore. So there's jacks, 3 combos. There's ace-10 off. Maybe let's give him like hard combos. So 6 combos, 9 combos. There's 10-9 suited of hearts. That's 10 combos of value that beats me. And then bluffs something. Yeah, the thing is, I could have even folded the river here. Well, now when I think about it, because what does 200 reg bluff in this spot? Like he has to turn some jack 10 into bluff, blocking my sets. Maybe some 6x into a bluff. I don't think queen 10 is a good bluff because he doesn't block my value, right? You want to block, you want to bluff the stuff that you block from the flop. So yeah, jack 10 only. And how often are people gonna follow through on the turn with jack 10, right? Maybe ace jack as well. Maybe with a heart. Okay, jack 10 of hearts. Ace jack of hearts could go for bluffs maybe. But yeah, when I think about it now, I need 28% equity. Yeah, I think I could have maybe find the river fold in this spot. I decided to call, and he did have that turned really good equity hand, which is obviously a barrel right on the turn. Now, I'm not trying to be results orientated, but I'll show you why I think my turn call It's pretty big mistake in practice. So let's open the wizard to see. All right, so here's the wizard. He already made a mistake on the flop because he should be range c betting this flop. There's a lot of flops that you play range check or high frequency check, so this is not one of them. So we can't really be accurate in our findings here. So what I'm gonna do is, it will be the same idea. I'm gonna put some board that has a checking range. It will be the same idea. The idea for my turn jam, I'll show you now. So check, we decide to bet our sixes. You can see we're betting some set blockers, Jack X, 6X, some backdoors, overcards, etc. He goes for a raise, so he's going to be raising. Okay, this is a different board now, but he's going to be raising Queen Jack, Jacks, at a mix, right? Some overcards, right? It's only 2%, but it's not that important. You see, we play some 3-bets again. If we node lock this to give him raising like King 10 pure or 10-9 pure, the more and more we wanna 3-bet our pocket sixes here, right? We can actually, I'm gonna node lock that to show you. Okay, so I always wanna node lock his starting response because it always changes based on how much you node lock in the future nodes, right? So let's see, let's give him raising pocket jacks, pocket sixes, 10-9, king 10, queen jack. All right. Okay, so what changed from the previous sim is, actually sixes don't raise that often because they still lose to jacks, but the thing is here, jacks always 3-bets, right? So I was off by one margin, but it makes sense because jacks want to get max value from sixes, right? While sixes doesn't, while sixes just loses to higher sets. So it makes sense. But we do raise more as a bluff as well. Those set blockers a lot. All right. So I could have 3-bet the flop based what I think happens in practice, that people will be more equity driven, right? Having king 10 and 10-9 is easier than having ace 10 or like 6-5, jack 9, right? But anyways, let's check the turn. Let's unlock this. I went for a call. Yeah, let's unlock that. What was the turn? Deuce of hearts. He decides to barrel. And you can see sixes is checking, I mean, he's calling or jamming, right? But let's see his range composition. So he has to be turning some jack 9. Okay, this is with a flush draw. He has to be betting 10-9. He has to be checking 10-9, spades, clubs, right? He has to be betting jack X blockers, ace jack, king jack, 6X blockers, right? Which I don't really think happens in prac because it's really hard to find this stuff unless you're super studied in UTG versus button single raise spots, which I don't think people are at all. Even myself, I'm not that studied because the spot doesn't happen that often, so you will be probably wasting your time studying these spots where you can study more frequent spots way more until you master them, of course. If you master the most basic spots, then you can add in extra study in these spots to get an edge over your competition, right? But what we can do here is, let's just no lock to what human would probably do in game. So let's no luck checking Jack X. This one, I don't think people will find these. Maybe they find these with a backdoor flush draw. So we're going to leave that. Okay, we're going to leave Jack with flush draw as well. 10-9, we're going to give him some more 10-9. And King 10. And Ace 10 of hearts, but he doesn't have them in this sim, so Ace Queen, okay, Kings. I think this region will be maybe even checked more often in game, because they would maybe think they lose to sixes or jacks and stuff, so they want to be careful. But yeah, let's leave the same frequencies. We don't want to change that too much. Oh yeah, Queen Jack is definitely betting always. All right. So what we can see here is against this strat, it's a huge mistake to check sixes, right? I mean, not that huge a mistake if in terms of BBs, but it clearly higher EVs to jam if he's gonna have way more equity-driven range. So that's one of the main reasons why I would say I know this stuff in games. So I was pretty disappointed with myself to just call when I know that they're gonna be on average more equity-driven. They're gonna struggle to find these 6x and jack x bluffs for sure. Like I'm 100% sure. If someone disagrees with me, type in the comments why do you think they would find those hands. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why. Well, that's one of the main reasons why I should jam the turn in my eyes, right? So that's what I wanted to show you there. All right, next hand. Unknown guy, presumably recreational, open CTG. Small blind flats, I flat as well for this price. If you open 2.5x, I think we can already fold. Three-way, these types of hands. The flop point, check, check, check. Turn 6. I decide to stab my hand. I don't expect recreational to have anything strong when he checks three-way on the flop. Maybe he has some slow plays or like ace king, ace queen that randomly decide to check back, whatever. And I have open ender. I think small blind will be always pretty much out of the way when he checks the turn again. The recreational calls. And we get a straight by the river. So once he calls the overbet, I would think his range is something like pretty strong, something like ace x or turned sixes. Maybe he gets some two pair by the river like ace 9, or maybe he decides to call jack 9 on the turn. And again, how do I get the max with my top range against the recreational? I go for a super inducing small size where I make sure that if he has a strong hand or if he has a strong ace, I make sure that he raises versus my small bet, which is exactly what happened in game. And now I easily get over it and I go for a jam, hoping he calls me with two pair or even ace king, ace queen that is curious enough, right, to call my jam. So again, I'm going for the max. I'm going for stacks with my top range, as you already seen from previous hands. He decides to call, and he had a super weird slow played pocket eights. Even if we bet normal size, he would probably raise. So be cooler team, top range versus top range. But this was designed to, yeah, make him raise ace 9, make him raise ace king, ace queen, and then put him in a top spot with a jam, right? I would never bluff this spot versus a recreational because I don't think they would fold ace king or ace 9. So I'm only going this with value, pure value, always jamming. And we found an easy stack this way. All right, next hand. We 3-bet ace king from the small blind. Again, there's a unknown opening on the button. I don't have much chance on him, but his stats look like reggish or something like that. Calls. Pretty bad board. I'm going to be playing range check here. The button's going to have set advantage, 2-pair advantage, straight advantage. I just simplify, play range check. Versus a block, I'm going to be attacking him quite aggressively, even more than the solver. Because people might think this board is, so good for them, they can bet anything. I decide to go for a raise with my king of diamonds. Could also play as a check call from these positions. Ace king is strong enough. He decides to call. We get a nice turn. We should be betting a lot here. But this time, against a unknown guy, I decide to go for a trap with my king of diamonds. Because I think most of his range here by now will be some 7x, 6x, 8-7, pocket 8s, pocket 9s. I don't think people unknown. I'm not 100% sure about this guy, but if they're unknown, I don't think they're going to be jamming 8-7, pocket 8s that often on the flop as they should in GTO. So I put them on those hands way more. And those hands have a lot of equity, right? So I also don't want to build that pot because I'm going to be forced to fold on so many rivers, like on 4 straight rivers, on diamond rivers, etc., etc. But here I decide to go for a trap with my king of diamonds, having a plan that to bluff catch on diamond rivers. So I go for a check. He checks back. At this point, I think he never has a set or 2-pair. So again, his range 8s, 9s, 10s, maybe some flush draws, maybe 4s, 3s. And we get a really interesting river because it's an overcard and it's a flush draw. So I should probably block here or something like that just to get called by his low pocket pairs in GTO. He has to be calling some like low pairs at a mix against super small size, which I don't think ever happens in practice. So I decide to go for check again and manipulate his range because at this point I already said he doesn't have anything strong. He can only have jacks or flush draws that complete on the river, right? And most of his range is pocket 4s, pocket 8s, 7-8, pocket 9s. Depending on the player, but I think they won't be able to resist bluffing this river where the flush completes and overcard came, so they're never good with their pocket 4s, they're never good with their 8-7, they're never good with their 8s. And this is exactly what happened. He went for a jam. And I managed to win another stack by slow playing way more into unknown players' range and manipulating his range and forcing him to make mistakes, right? This is even wider than I expected because he shouldn't even be calling this on the flop versus my raise. So yeah, a nice little stack there. All right, let's end the video with a really special hand that I think you guys will like. So small blind opens. Again, kind of unknown guy. We're a bit deeper, 225 deep. I go for a 3-bet. He 4-bets, pretty small size, this deep. I could play some 5-bets here, or I could play flats. I prefer to flat in position against unknowns because I can't range them, right? I don't have stats. He might have 5-3 suited here. He might have aces always. You never know. I decide to call. Okay, flop. He decides to check. I think I'm going to have way more 10s, jacks, jack 10. I'm still going to slow play some aces. I'm going to slow play queens, kings. So I expect myself to bet a lot on this board, but I decide to check in game. I think main reason why I checked is I don't have a club. I would always be betting with a club and checking these other suits. That's my strategy. Turn 9, he decides to check again. So at this point, I don't think he has a well-protected range. Like, he should be slow playing some sets or straights here again. I don't think people do that enough as the solver would. So mostly think he's weaker here. I decide to bet. And against unknown guy, I think they call pure with ace-queen type of hands. Even though they should probably fold it, especially deeper, because they're going to get dominated a lot by ace-king, or they're going to be dead already by king-queen. I think unknown should call ace-queen off a bunch here with his overcard and open-ender. So that was my plan, to go one and done and check unimproved on the reverse. He calls, but I get a really interesting reverse. So my flush completes here. My flush is complete. I have king-queen a lot. I have 8-7 a lot. Right, I have pocket nines a lot of the combos that he shouldn't have that often, especially in practice when he checks the turn. So I can put huge amounts of pressure here. I know I beat those ace-queen offs that I already said, but I think higher EV here is to jam, especially when the flush completes, and hope he folds something like ace-10 or king-jack, stuff like that. I decide to go for a jam, and I get snap called lightning speed. He totally owned me with pocket sevens here. No heart, nothing. Just pure feel call. And a reminder to you guys, always be aware who are you against. As I said, my GTO brain here took over on the river where I have the nut flush blocker, and I thought I could put maximum pressure on his range. But I wasn't even aware who am I against, right? And that's like the number one priority you should think when you're playing these hands, right? Especially deeper. Like, I couldn't believe my eyes when he snap called me with sevens. He puts me on ace king. Like, he had a plan from the flop or the turn, which is fine. Like, he owned me. Well played to him. So really cool hands to end the video. So yeah, that was it for this hand review. I hope you guys liked it. A lot of interesting spots. But yeah, main takeaways is from these hands that always go for maximum when you do have your value. Never raise smaller, like majority of regs still do. They're still playing like it's 2012. You know, they want to get called way more often. That's just shit, garbage reg playstyle in my eyes. And that's why you should never do that with your top range, especially. All right. So that was all for me, this video. Hope you liked it, and take care.